Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Collins and this is my Educated Citizen portfolio for the traditional BSN program. I want to start this presentation by explaining the public issue that I chose to analyze throughout this semester. I chose anxiety and depression amongst the adolescent population. Throughout conducting my research, I learned that anxiety and depression amongst the adolescent population has been on a steady rise since the early 2000s. During the pandemic, there was an increasing amount of attention to this issue due to the extremely high number of adolescents who suffered from mental illness, especially anxiety and depression. Nearly 1 in 3 adolescents will experience anxiety or depression disorders, and many of the approaches to treating anxiety and depression in this population includes promoting exercise, avoiding drugs and alcohol, promoting a healthy sleep-wake schedule, and eating healthy and nutritious foods. We were all adolescents at some point, not too long ago. I'm sure we can all remember that balancing family, friends, homework, sleep, sports, etc. It's no easy task. And then adding on anxiety and depression management to that workload, it's a lot for anybody to handle, especially hormonal teenagers. Throughout my research this semester, I've learned so much about applying my knowledge and my skills as an educated citizen to really focus and learn about the things that I can do in order to help with this public issue and the vulnerable population that is being affected. My initial reasoning for choosing this issue stems from my own time as an adolescent. I remember the struggles, I remember the stress, and now as a young adult who is actively struggling with anxiety and depression, I wondered if there was anything I could have done to prevent this from happening to me, and then, of course, to prevent it from happening to the adolescent population of today and tomorrow. I want to start this portion of my presentation by discussing what it means to be an effective communicator. An effective communicator uses critical thinking to generate, connect, and organize ideas in a written, oral, and nonverbal manner. The first experience I would like to share that contributed to my learning as an effective communicator was during my first semester here at Nebraska Methodist College. I can still remember how nervous I was to be finally starting nursing school. I had heard the horror stories about the struggles, the late nights and early mornings, and the dedication that I would have to give for the next few years of my life. During this semester, I was introduced to the Educated Citizen portfolio. I learned the importance of becoming an effective communicator in order to be successful not only in school, but also in my work as a nurse one day. Throughout this semester, I learned what it means to be an effective communicator, which is something that I felt somewhat good at. I was a good communicator, but I was lucky enough to learn the importance of properly generating, connecting, and organizing with my classmates, my professors, my coworkers, etc. This experience relates to my public issue because I can apply what I learned about being an effective communicator and use this knowledge to advocate for individuals who may not know how to use their own voice. During adolescence, it is important to learn your place in the world, discover your passion, and above all, figure out what kind of person you want to be. These children are focused on themselves, as they should be, and it is our job as adults to advocate for these adolescents, to be their voice and their leader in these issues that are too big for them to understand. The next experience that I will be sharing was when I spent a clinical day following a case manager at Methodist Fremont Health. During this experience, I was able to apply and utilize my skills as an effective communicator while interacting with a patient who was about to be discharged. For whatever reason, this patient did not want to go home. The case manager referred to patients like this as frequent flyers, stating that they will do just about anything to stay here in the hospital, even if that means lying about their home life and home situation. The patient had told the case manager that there were 3 steps that they had to climb in order to get into their house. But what the patient didn't tell the case manager was that there was also a ramp that went right from the driveway all the way up to the front door. The patient disclosed this information to me. When I mentioned this to the case manager, she was extremely relieved because this meant that the patient would go home today. There was no longer the need for physical therapy to clear the patient for doing steps. The patient was free to go home. I had no intention of getting this patient to divulge this information to me. We were just having a pleasant conversation, but during this conversation, I used my skills as an effective communicator to help the case manager and the hospital in opening up a hospital bed for someone who is actually in need. I learned a lot from this experience. I learned that breaking routine is sometimes necessary when communicating with a difficult population. I also learned that it's okay to do what needs to be done so that everyone involved can benefit. In this situation, I absolutely felt bad for the patient. They had trusted me with this information, but it was my duty to the case manager to help her through this discharge. At the end of the day, there was an available hospital bed for a patient who was in need, and the patient was happy to get home to their family. It just took a little bit of a push from myself and the case manager in order to get this patient comfortable and accepting in the fact that they were ready to go home. My application from this experience is to always go the extra mile when communicating, mainly because you never know what you're going to find out. If I hadn't sat with that patient and asked about their breakfast, who knows? Maybe that patient would still be occupying that room. A reflective individual routinely engages in habits of inquiry that influence ways of thinking and actions. That I believe has helped me on my journey to becoming a reflective individual was during a luncheon that my classmates and I attended for our organization, JDRF. 4 classmates and I were assigned a project this semester where we were to collaborate with a local agency. My group chose JDRF, or the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. I am extremely grateful for this experience, and I was able to include my public issue into this portion specifically because the majority of the individuals that we spoke with during the luncheon were adolescents and, of course, their families. During the luncheon, we had a booth where we had questions regarding type 1 diabetes, sort of like a game of trivia, and we had a bunch of prizes for the kiddos to choose from. We also provided information and education to the children and their families. This experience taught me the importance of properly educating and communicating with the adolescent population. I also learned the importance of educating everyone who was listening. 9 times out of 10, when we were providing information on type 1 diabetes during this luncheon, it was to the parents or guardians. But the kids were always listening. They had questions and they wanted to know more. This was their diagnosis that they were having to live with and manage. So I found that I was able to focus my attention to them, answer their questions, provide them with information, and honestly, just being there for them and listening to their stories about their diagnosis and their journey was truly inspiring. The resilience of the adolescent population is unlike any other. My application from this experience involves around always providing support for the individuals who may not have any. Adolescents don't have a very loud voice, their questions often go unanswered, and their concerns are usually ignored. It is so important that we listen and we do our best to support these adolescents, these kids who may have never had their story be heard up until now. The next experience that I will be discussing is one that I'm sure many other nursing students have experienced themselves. This experience revolves around my work as a CNA in a long-term care facility. Working with dementia patients is no easy job. As a CNA of almost 4 years now, I have had many opportunities to care for patients who are suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's. I've been kicked, slapped, bitten, spat on, you name it. But one thing I've always done is kept calm and remained patient. This is one of the most important jobs of any nurse. Whether it be with a dementia patient or not, we must remain calm, focused, and patient. I've seen so many nurses and so many CNAs lose their composure in these tough situations, and it ended up as a bad situation for everyone involved. When mistakes are made during these situations, it is so important that we reflect and we learn so that we can prevent the mistake from being made in the future. My time as a CNA has helped me to learn the importance of reflecting on every patient interaction and asking myself what I could have done better. What could I do to help this person more? How can I help those around me to care for this person? Applying the learning that I have obtained so far will help me in my journey to continue to learn and grow as an advocate, an educator, and a nurse. The last portion of my journey to becoming an educated citizen is change agent. A change agent uses the disciplines of the liberal arts and sciences to analyze historical and contemporary situations and systems, to develop cultural competence, and to take appropriate initiative to effect change. The first experience where I really understood the concept of what a change agent is was during my first clinical experience as a student nurse. During this experience, I was able to finally begin caring for patients in the hospital setting. This did involve a lot of CNA work, but I was also able to practice my assessments. I finally used my stethoscope for the first time, and I was able to see what it meant to be a bedside nurse. During this rotation, I learned the importance of sitting back and listening. I learned that being a change agent doesn't always mean that I have to be the one changing those around me, but that it was okay that I was the one that was being changed. I was growing and learning with each experience, and this is what it means to be a change agent. Adapting to change is a key to being successful, especially in healthcare. Healthcare and medicine are constantly changing, which means that we must be flexible and we must always be willing to learn and to adapt along with the world around us. Being a nursing student during the pandemic was a rough road. My classmates and I were transitioned to an online learning environment, as was every student in the world, I imagine. This new way of learning was different for all of us, but for those around me, I believe that I posed as a leader and an advocate for the learning that we deserved. Throughout this online learning experience, I made myself available to my classmates. Only having a class of 20 something was certainly a perk. We had a group chat where we were able to seek help on topics that we may be struggling with, and we had each other to go to for support whenever we needed it. I always tried my best to be there for my classmates, as I would hope that they would do the same for me if I was in need. I made myself available to help with studying, homework, note taking, and learning through our online lectures. Throughout this experience, I learned that being a change agent does not mean that you must be a leader who stands in front of a group of people. Being a change agent does not mean that you are the smartest or the strongest person in the room. I learned that being a change agent means that you are willing and able to listen, learn, and grow with those around you. With this knowledge and the experiences of being a change agent, I know the importance of using the resources that are available. Ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for someone to lead the pack if there are struggles. Being a change agent means having the courage to see something and be willing to fix it, to make that necessary change when nobody else will. Overall, I've learned so much these last 3 years at Methodist. I now know the importance of being an educated citizen and being able to use my experiences thus far to make me the best nurse that I can be. I know that wherever I go next, I will have the knowledge and the willingness to learn and grow in a productive way that will not only benefit myself, but also my patients and those around me. Learning about the public issues in our world has opened my eyes to the importance of advocating for our patients no matter what their situation is. It is our job to be their advocate, their voice, and their hero if that is what they need. The experiences that I have shared here today and all of those that only reside in my memory have helped me to grow as a person and will assist me in my future as a nurse. I cannot wait to see what the future has in store for me, and I owe it all to Methodist for getting me this far.